But let's get to today's news because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. First up, some pretty big news. We've got some expungements actually rolling out here in Minnesota.
Yeah, some expungements for misdemeanors, petty misdemeanors.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just some minor cannabis crimes. So this is like people that had possession crimes, and that was sort of it. We've not seen the sale crimes roll out in that automatic expungement. We are going to see that through that expungement board a little bit later, but as of right now, it's just, as you said, sort of those more minor cannabis crimes. And man, just about 58,000. That's a decent number of records that are now going to be wiped clean.
Yeah, cool. What does that do for somebody with the petty misdemeanor? Say I got picked up and ticketed downtown with an eighth on me in 2013. What does that do for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe you're applying for a job and it could like come up on a background check if you have an employer that's particularly concerned about that. Yeah. Could be a barrier. Maybe if you're applying for a housing. But no, I agree with you that like
for a lot of people, don't you think that it's kind of like sorry that we were wrong about that, and for most people it doesn't really affect them. And for me, if I was apologized to the state who took even if it was like $260 from me, this didn't happen. The only time I personally was impacted by prohibition, which is the dumbest thing to say, dude. I've been impacted by prohibition. Everybody's been impacted by the prohibition of this plant, but I've been in some situations, and so this was the most minor thing when we were on our way to a Fish concert in 2010.
Okay, for sure.
And got pulled over at Osseo, Wisconsin. So nothing in Minnesota, so I don't qualify for this, or this doesn't affect me, but I'm just thinking about the people that it does affect. Like, if I did have a ticket like the one that I just hypothetically mentioned, I feel like I'd be kind of pissed off, dude. I'd be like, thanks for getting it wrong. Where's my 260? Where's my job offer from 2020 that I didn't get? You know what I'm saying? Like,
100%.
Sorry. I'm kind of like, dude.
Oh yeah, no, this is very much like that lowest threshold of what we possibly could see happen out of here. Of like, all right, the people that had minor tickets have been forgiven.
It's almost just like, don't do it, dude. It's almost just like, don't do it in the first place. Like do something when you're ready to do something meaningful and impactful. And to your point, if this does allow one of the 57,000 people to get a job, then it was the right thing to do, and they did it at the right time. They, way too late, if anything,
for
right?
Sure.
Obviously, but right, if it positively impacts one of these people's abilities to get a job, then it was a good thing that they did. Cool.
But no, I agree with you that like I'm sure the tens of thousands of people that are sitting with other cannabis related crimes are sort of thinking like, all right, well, you're making a lot of effort towards opening up shops. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later in the show. Where is sort of the effort that you're putting into clearing my record? Yeah, I sold cannabis, and people will be legally selling cannabis perhaps in a building like this very soon. But, where is that forgiveness?
Building like this, dog, drive 4 hours, drive 7 hours. It's not that far away. And unfortunately, what I would assume is that a lot of these 57,000 people don't look exactly like me and you, Tanner.
Totally fair.
I would assume, and for that, a good thing. For those 57,000 people, if a majority of them, as we know, statistically, very well could be minorities or people of color, or
absolutely, yeah.
Then obviously a very good thing, but 4 to 7 hours away, there are dudes that look very much like us, and 45 minutes away, and also 4 to 7 hours away in those very same places, people are sitting jail still for selling much less weed
100%.
than those guys that are legally doing it outside of those jail cell walls. And so until that changes, I'm not super impressed.
Yeah, no, I think that's super fair. And I think it's super fair to say, what about the Minnesotans that have criminal convictions, in other jurisdictions? That's like, all right, great, my Minnesota one is expunged, but sort of like you were saying, I think it's going to take a while for our friends over in Wisconsin to really catch up.
Now, though, dude, is my project this week, and I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, please.
Last week or the week before, dude, I have to now try and contact the people of Osseo, Wisconsin, and the police department of Trempealeau County or whatever to try and find this record so that maybe I could qualify as a social equity applicant.
Absolutely.
Somebody who has been negatively impacted. And I will say that was, that's a funny story. That's how negatively that impacted me at the time. I've been in situations that were not as pleasant as that. And so I feel because of that, right, I should be at least allowed a seat at the table alongside the other people who didn't have to risk things like that, and people who came in with capital to just make money off of what we've been doing for a long time.
Absolutely.
Man, I kind of lost my train of thought there.
No, you're all good. No, you were talking about like having to follow up in Wisconsin and like having to go and like track down this one citation.
Okay,
and,
all right. That was just a whole spiel trying to justify me as you know what, dude? If you're out there and feel like I don't look like a social equity applicant, put it in the comments. I'm open to that feedback, and I get it. There are definitely people who have been more severely impacted than me, for sure, and a lot of those people wear that target visually as their skin color or as the way that they might look ethnically like a minority. You know what I mean? I absolutely understand the impact of that, and like I was saying earlier, statistics show, So, all that being said, it is funny now that I have to go back to Trempealeau County and try and be like, hey, could I get that evidence so that I can benefit from the fact that I was pulled over and arrested for... dude, it's wild.
On the way to a Fish concert.
On the way to a Fish concert in 2010.
So I gotta ask, and this is probably not the main point, but did you make the show?
Dude, so it was Deer Creek, Noblesville, Indiana.
For sure.
Which is 10, 12 hours away, maybe.
Yeah.
And, we got there set out to try and, camp that night before the show, sleep, and then get back up for the show. And it was like 100 degrees out, and we pulled up like 2 hours before the show. I remember something like that. And we were just... didn't sleep the whole night.
For sure.
I had like 4 nights of Fish ahead of us. Yeah, dude, I'm gonna go back to that social equity thing. I shouldn't qualify for that. That should not. If that is on paper the best I got, dude, yeah, you give these licenses to someone else all day. But I will say, you give me a license, I'll bring you chronic weed, I promise.
Well, and so I think that's like what so we've debated this a lot on the show over the past couple of weeks, and the legislature has debated it a lot as well. It's like, who qualifies as social equity applicant? We had a discussion on the show.
This was nowhere on your outline, but this is exactly what I wanted to talk about.
And I think it's such a prudent conversation because, there was a discussion last week about like, should all women qualify as a social equity applicant, because
it's a great question.
Women-owned businesses.
I think that is a great question. Hell yeah, I want to promote women-owned businesses in cannabis, and I will do that every chance I get. Shout out to all my ladies for making dope products and running dope shops.
Absolutely. And as we talked about how like that's something that we all agreed that we wanted to support, but in a bill that doesn't allow BIPOC individuals to qualify because they've been disproportionately impacted. If you are black, you don't qualify, even though black Minnesotans have been more
Absolutely.
impacted by prohibition than like a white woman has.
Right.
But I think what social equity has shown us is that a lot of people were harmed in a lot of ways, even some ways that aren't tangibly tied to a court record.
For sure, dude.
So I think I hear what you're saying.
There might be police records that exist, but that police record might not. It's not going to tell you what happened.
100%. Marcus has a I almost said a great story. It's not a great story. Marcus has a story about being down south, getting pulled out of his car, being searched, and like that doesn't qualify him as a social equity applicant.
No, dude.
But someone
think
who
about that though.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's bro. I don't need to seek like professional therapy
100%
for running up to a Fish concert an hour or two before the show without sleep the night before.
Totally.
No, getting pulled out of a car by an authoritative figure and being completely powerless and helpless. Mm-hmm. But you're right. He doesn't have a police report that says that happened.
100%. So I think what we're seeing is that like social equity is an idea that maybe can't be tangibly tied to like this statute. Like, yes, we're gonna have that from like a licensure perspective, but I think there's gonna be a lot of people that maybe think, yeah, prohibition impacted someone else more than me, so they should be ahead of line than me. But I think what we're seeing is that
how do you qualify
the pie
that?
of this is so big. If you were harmed by prohibition, I think there should be that on-ramp. Whether you're someone who was incarcerated, whether you're someone who had a family member incarcerated, whether you received a citation or a ticket or had to go to jail or whatever. If the state harmed you because you were a cannabis consumer or distributor, you should be part of this industry. And I think we have to stop adding qualifiers of like, because I agree with you, there are probably people that were harmed more than you by prohibition, but I mean, are we going to make everyone get in line and say like, all right, these 6 people are the most impacted, so you can run a business? I think we just got to say the war was wrong. How can we make at least it a little bit right? And I think it's by taking people, yes, like you, and giving you that on-ramp to the industry.
Yeah, but dude, I don't know if I can say this on this podcast. I might fuck it up.
No.
You might not want to give me a license because while I've fought like this, I've never ran a distribution company before. That's, ran taxes and employed employees. And so I do need help, dude. And I do need, I need support and training myself. If the state wants people like me to be able to sustainably carry forward a socially equitable license.
Yeah, for sure.
That was a mouthful, dude.
But I think you are one of so many people that's in that position of, you've got that passion, you've got this vision, but, yeah, it's okay that you haven't filed taxes on behalf of employees before because that's sort of our whole industry. Like, we are going to, I've used this analogy not on the podcast, and I don't mean it not, I mean it with so much love, but I think a lot of people learned that running a cannabis business is just showing up and doing it day after day after day. And it's not about, I've got the best knowledge or experience or background or whatever be it. It's just that I'm willing to say, this is something that I want to do, and you should give me a license to do it.
I'm definitely not going to name names here, but my shop owners know who they are when I walk in, and they're like, yeah, dude, QuickBooks is annoying me today or this thing that I am. And I'm like, dude, I didn't ever log into QuickBooks 2 years ago. You know what I mean? And that is very validating and maybe a little, anxiety relieving.
Nobody told me that when we started this project like 4 years ago that we'd be spending so much time trying to figure out a credit card processor.
Oh my god.
So like,
dude,
I think.
God. Hey, okay. Can I say this on the podcast?
I don't even know what it is.
Swear,
Yes.
fuck you, dude. You
suck. With everything that's happened in our industry over the past couple of weeks and months and people that I've spoken to, yeah, you can say that. That's
Thank you.
that's an insane one.
All right.
Well,
right. Just give me my money, dude.
yes. Hey, hopefully scheduling, helps that. Whatever.
They pay me before they listen to this podcast.
Yeah, that's. We'll just hold this specific clip off until.
Tight. Yeah. No, we're dropping it on them.
Yeah. Well, we do have a little bit more news to talk about, but first we're gonna take a short break and we're gonna do another dab, and then we're gonna talk through some other news.
Oh, jeez.
All right, we'll be right back.
All right, so Minnesota Weed Party isn't major.
Oh yeah, all right, so we got to do a whole and we're back kind of thing.
Okay.
But then we'll jump right into that.
Okay, you want to do the and we're
Sure.
back, or do you want me to do the and we're back? Because if I was gonna do the and we're back, I'd be like, and we're back.
Hey, we're back. Yeah, we're gonna use that one. No, I love it. Yeah. So you were just talking about the next thing that we're gonna be talking about here. We've got some news, and we've talked about this a little bit on the show. The Legal Marijuana Now Party, a party with a long history here in Minnesota, was argued by the DFL to not be a full major party in Minnesota.
Thank you, DFL.
Yeah, it went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has now officially ruled, no, you are not a major party here in Minnesota. We have two major parties. It's a DFL, it's a GOP, and that's just sort of, it is what it is.
Not a huge fan of the bipartisan system that we've set up here in the United States necessarily. Yeah. Definitely not stoked about the near future here. But the Legal Marijuana Party now was dumb, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's,
Shout out to anybody who put genuine work into that for
100%.
the cause of, fighting prohibition.
Like, credit where credit is due. It had its role at a time when neither party was saying, yeah, we support legalization. Mm-hmm. But as clearly seen, there is a party that supports legalization. And it's the DFL.
That.
Yeah,
I saw when they all voted to pass these laws.
Yeah, so I think, at this point, do we need another party that says legal marijuana now on the ballot when, I don't know, it's not, we don't have shops open yet, but we do sort of have legal marijuana
Here's why
now.
It's dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say,
please?
There are 8,000 things that need to change in society before, and dude, I'm gonna get some flack for this, I think, before weed needs to be legalized.
Okay.
I do, you know what I mean? I think kids need to be fed. I think that, women's reproductive rights are incredibly important. Weed is, for most people, not life and death, but some of those other things for a lot of people are.
Totally.
And so there are, maybe not 8,000, but a couple of things that are more important than legalizing weed. And these are all things that each, GOP, DFL have particular stances on. So why just say, hey, you know what, the really the most important thing is, and that's why I thought that it was silly.
Yeah. It is tough, saying we got to be single issue voters when, as you said, there's a lot going on right now. And I understand, maybe feeling dejected from politics and saying, my vote doesn't matter. I can use this as a protest vote. But I think we're at a point now where,
sure.
What are you protesting?
Okay, now is for sure silly. But here's the thing, dude. It's, I think, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, maybe easy to be a single issue voter. It's easier for dudes that look like us.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
For dudes that look like us, we're like, you know what's bugging me today, dude? Weed's not legal. And, for maybe dudes that look like Marcus, they're like, you know what's bugging me today is I got ripped out of my fucking car by a cop.
100%.
For nothing. And so that's why me and you can be on our couch smoking our joint, looking out through our shades, being like, I'm gonna vote with all of my voice for legalizing weed, and that's so privileged, dude. And
man.
I think it's kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
So yeah, now for sure they got really nothing to do.
No.
Was it not just a shell?
Yeah, so that's what I've really struggled with is, if we go back in like the history, I love looking at the history of these parties. Going back in time, there perhaps was a time period when Legal Marijuana Now Party was a break off of the grassroots party, when maybe they were doing some stuff that they shouldn't have been focusing on at the time.
Whatever.
Do you support legalizing pedophilia? Maybe the grassroots party did at one point.
Jesus
Moving
Christ.
past that, what we're talking about right here is that
my
Legal
God.
Marijuana Now is supposed to be the statement of we want legal cannabis now. And what we're really seeing is that like now as a party, it's being used as a tool to actually harm the party that supports legalization, the DFL.
For sure. It had to have been funded in part in the past by people whose sole reason for funding it was detracting from the cause of the DFL.
Yeah, 100%.
I can't prove that, but I bet somebody
Detracting
can.
from the cause of legalization.
I'll bet somebody can, because that's how politics work.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude.
100%, man. No, so I agree with you. I think we're happy to see that this has now moved in that direction. We got to say this, especially so we can avoid libel, is the party is appealing this. So they're going to be appealing this to the U.S. Supreme Court. They said they hope that the Supreme Court finds that Minnesota DFL written election law to be unconstitutional. I think, we probably won't be seeing that anytime soon. But regardless, on our ballot this fall, we likely won't be seeing a ton of Legal Marijuana Now candidates unless they go through the entire petition process, which at this point, good luck.
Everybody on Instagram wants to talk trash about Walls. The Legal Marijuana Party now still could not get Scott Jensen elected.
There we go. All right, well, let's talk about another story. So we like to bring up municipalities, counties, all the local jurisdictions that try to put cannabis policies in place, especially in this time before legalization has really rolled out. Moratoriums are the biggest tool that cities have used to try to prevent cannabis from coming into their city before they can figure out the proper policies or whatever it is that they're looking for. The next one that we're going to talk about, Albert Lea voted on a week ago from when you're listening to this podcast to stop issuing licenses to any businesses that sell cannabis, liquor, tobacco, or, this is a good one, any sexually oriented materials for up to 6 months while they study how to properly zone this.
Who would have thunk? Like, oh, dude, yeah, no, Albert Lea isn't super down for weed. Like, surprise, surprise, dude. Have you heard of outside of the 694, 494 loop? Like,
Yeah.
dude, there's going to be places like this, and there's going to be battles that are going to be fought, and we knew this. And this is super privileged, too. Shout out to all my Minnesotans, you know what I mean? Skol Vikes. Go Wolves. They're just gonna have to come to the city. And here's the thing too, is I do think that oh God, sometimes I just gotta think, how long do I want to make this story? All right, for instance, I was in Palm Springs and I just wasn't happy with the selection of most of the dispensaries out there. There's gonna be pockets of any legal place where the commerce just isn't popping as much as it is in other places that you could go that might not be super far away. So consumers will vote with their dollar and their vehicle and jump in and drive to, a spot an hour away or hour and a half away. We have tons of people still going up to Michigan right now. It's 4 hours, man.
They're doing a music festival in like a week right in Ironwood that all the dispensaries are hosting to try to get people to come to town.
So smart. Well, that's the thing is I was up there, dude. I was up there and there was nothing. This was pre-COVID probably.
Okay, for sure.
And I was like, dude, why is stuff not popping up here? And I think it probably has changed.
It's starting now. Yeah, I've heard if you go to one of those dispensaries, it's about an hour wait if you haven't done a pre-order. Which it's a lot of Wisconsin and Minnesota.
And that's why they got to get this figured out. Exactly, there's a ton of our hard-working tax dollars being spent out of state.
Oh yeah.
Which you know what, dude? Michigan grows good pot, and if you're gonna grow good pot, take my tax dollars.
Yeah, fair. Well, and we've both been in Colorado before, enjoying their market. I imagine. Have you
definitely spent dollars in Colorado? I just said I was spending them in Palm Springs.
Okay, sure.
I wasn't even stoked about it. I'd rather have spent that here with terps that I'm familiar with, or shops that familiar with that have good terps.
Well, the reason that I mentioned Colorado is because what we saw in Colorado is cities outright banning cannabis, saying we don't want any cannabis businesses here.
But I don't think that's illegal.
So it is in Colorado.
It's in Colorado, but with our bill?
We can't have that here. So what we're seeing is cities doing essentially like the equivalent allowed under our bill, which is coming up with these regulations. So they wouldn't allow cannabis within 1,000 feet of a school, 500 feet of a daycare, residential treatment facilities, or, quote, attractions within a public park that is regularly used by minors, including playgrounds or athletic fields. So if there's a playground, 500 feet away from you, can't have a dispensary there.
500 feet, what does that look like? A football field and a half, right? My math is...
No, you're good. So a football field, because I'm not a football person, so that's 100 yards.
100 yards, so 500
yard
feet.
is
Right,
3
it's
feet,
about, it's about football field and a half. Slightly over that. That makes sense for schools. I'm just trying to think, like, sometimes, like you said, people are going to moratorium the shit out of this. Oh, it's going to be 10,000 feet. And there's just, it's ridiculous guidelines that aren't possible to meet because there's 3 schools within 3 miles.
Totally.
And that's how big the town is. 500 feet makes sense for me from schools or daycares. It's like, what's the point in can you not have liquor stores by daycares?
So under this rule, they're putting in these new provisions that would prevent liquor stores and tobacco businesses to be included in those cannabis provisions.
It said airports, I think I heard you say.
Well, so that's the one that really... part of the reason that we're mentioning this, talking about moratoriums is important.
Anywhere kids might go. But kids are going to go anywhere.
Well, so those restrictions that we were talking about earlier are on sexually oriented businesses. So businesses that engage in, like, selling sexual materials.
Fantasy gifts, right? It's those places that you see when you're driving to fish concerts.
Yeah. Oh, so many of them along the Wisconsin highway.
Exactly, dude. That's what I'm saying. I think it's like fantasy gifts, something like that.
So those won't be within 1,000 feet of a school or 500 feet of residential areas, parks, recreational areas, public
Shout
theaters.
out fantasy gifts.
Yeah, shopping centers, airports. You're going to be shocked by our new sponsor. No. And then they also won't allow any of those sexually oriented businesses near interstate highways. So at least cannabis isn't under those strict provisions. But man, Albert Lea, you're not going to be that fun of a city anymore.
Are you surprised?
No.
Anymore? No. What do you mean? They were. What was you were like going down for their Hy-Vee?
Yeah, we used to for their Hy-Vee. I actually, this is terrible.
I'm sorry, I don't know anything about Albert.
I can't say that I've ever been to Albert Lea before.
Bro, my privilege is you just need to cut this whole episode. I've just supercharged an Albert Lea. Chop it. Cut
it. No. But I agree with you that, like, I think we're going to see the towns that no one's surprised, like, prohibiting cannabis. And then we're going to see towns like Minneapolis where we're probably going to see a decent number of cannabis businesses. And I'm excited for the future of what this looks like here in our state.
I think it'll be proportionate. God, am I struggling with the English language on this podcast, to the amount of people that want to open shops in that area. I think that the amount of, business owners might kind of mirror what it is that areas want to do, because a lot of times business owners have stuff to say in their local,
for sure,
constituencies, and I'm not sure that it will mirror what consumers want, or the number of consumers that are looking for these goods in a certain area. And so that's why I think you'll see people driving, but it might more so mirror the business owners. I have no idea. I'm pulling this out of my ass.
I just want us to figure out what shop has the best concentrates, and then we'll just go there.
Me and you can hang out there. Yeah. Bro, I don't doubt this one's going to have some fire. I mean, that's what I didn't get that far in the conversation with Kale earlier, but where I was going with that is that this shop, as much as whatever only weed people want to talk trash about people who do alcohol business stuff alongside weed business stuff. Like this shop is clearly set up by people who want to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Because they want to do this.
Yeah, shout out to the Dabbler Depot. I mean, we get to look out at their like whole seed-in sesh setup, and there's bags of soil, there's AC Infinity equipment, you can go buy edible products and beverages and all the likes, and it's a cool place.
Yeah, they did a good job. Off Payne, which is a street that you might drive down and not think a ton of, but if you've spent really any time here, you know that it's just dripping with like culture and energy. Honestly, cool stuff happens on this street.
I gotta say, I've spent more time on this street since they've moved in here than I have ever before. But yeah, it's a pretty sweet neighborhood.
I get my hair cut right down the street, Portland Starboard. Shout out Jagger. If you need to get chopped up, go see him. Bingo. I don't think that I've said the name of any of my manufacturers or retailers, but I have of the kid that cut my hair. So
I did that. Well, so we'll get to that a little bit later. We're gonna do a short product sampling. We're gonna go to the Dabbler Depot shelf. Well, maybe we'll pick some out and see what ones we wanna try out. But we got one more piece of news that I do unfortunately have to throw in here. No, actually, I think that this is sort of cool news.
We have breaking news.
Sort of. So I spent the day waiting for the conference committee report to be posted. So we're recording this on Friday. The last conference committee hearing was just the other day, and you can use the URL of the website to like type in what bill you want, and it tells you conference committee report not yet available. And then probably around like 12:30, I reloaded the page, and all of a sudden there's a document that popped up. And so I'm just going to be talking through some fun things from the conference committee report that are now.
What did you do?
So these Post-it notes are ramen noodle Post-it notes. Shout out to my coworker AJ who gave me some Post-it notes. So I went through, highlighted some of my favorite parts of the bill. I did read all 100.
That's all we're going to say about the ramen noodle Post-it notes?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I went through, highlighted, and read all 187 pages. You can see this was posted 12:19 p.m. today, so they were not lying about this. I'm just going to go through and tell you about some of the final decisions that were made. So we're just going to sort of power through these and talk about them.
Some of these are going to be news to me, dude. And some of these...
Yeah, well, so a big one that we've talked about a little bit on the past, but on-tap beverages, cannabis beverages, now going to be allowed. So other than products that are consumed as beverages, they have to be in their packaging, but otherwise, if you go to a bar, they can have a keg of cannabis products as long as they're making sure that the serving size is consistent for people. On-tap beverages coming up soon in Minnesota.
That is news to me. That is sick.
Yeah, I'm super... Because if you go to, like...
That is insane.
Yeah, so Minneaposis Cider Co., you can go there today.
Tell me what happens.
Yeah. They don't have that. No.
What? Has that happened in another state?
Not that I know of. I believe we're going to be one of the first states to have on-tap cannabis beverages allowed in
sick.
bars.
Bro, I
wherever.
just think about that for a second and kind of what that says almost entirely about the destigmatization and how far it's gone.
Oh, yeah. And to think that like we had edibles, quote unquote, legalized in 2022.
I want to do the first keg stand. You think anybody's done it?
Not yet, but coming up here soon. Coming to you. Yeah, we'll make that happen. I don't know if it's compliant, but we'll make it happen.
Oh, bro.
Some other stuff. Qualifying medical conditions has now been expanded to any condition that your doctor approves. So they've got this long list of conditions. Yeah, but if you go to your doctor, you're saying I'm having X, Y, and Z. Your doctor feels cannabis could help. You could be a med patient. Or anyone could be a med patient.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking to my little sister. Shout out Soph. We'll get to our manufacturers.
Yeah.
Brought to you in part by Soph. And I was just like, dude, I don't know if that thing that you asked me about would qualify now.
And now it's not a question of with the state does it qualify, but it's just with your doctor.
Yeah. Sick. And shout out to my doctor, dude. She's so sick.
Coming up to a conversation near you. Another big one, they got rid of a lot of the medical cannabis licenses. So now we're not going to see like a medical cannabis store.
Yeah.
We're going to see a store that sells cannabis and they also have medical cannabis products.
And we see that mirrored elsewhere. In
For
other
sure.
states.
Yeah, other states. What is neat about ours is if you go to a place like Michigan, some of their dispensaries still are med only, and you have to be a med patient to go here. Here in Minnesota, we're not going to have a single med only shop.
Which
it's
going to
have
save people mileage and gas.
So much. And at the end of the day, cannabis is cannabis. So I'm excited to see expanded sales allowed
so it's
under that.
It's funny that some just costs a little less and you can get maybe a little bit more of it.
Yeah. On the hemp-derived side, we've had caps that would like potentially go into place around what cannabinoids would be allowed. It's been expanded to 25 milligrams of CBD, CBG, CBN, CBC, and 5 milligrams of Delta-9 THC per serving.
The fact that this is expanded, dude, like, that it's silly that it's 25, but this was so necessary. I think Mini Grown had to do some crazy stuff with their Hibernate formula.
Yeah, people love them.
Mini Grown's not even one of my manufacturers. But shout out
Mini Grown. Zach Rohr, shout out Mini Grown. No, but yeah, so they had Hibernate gummies. They used to have CBN in them, and then they had to drop it down to 0.5 milligrams of CBN because we thought that would be the new cap.
Dude.
Now we could see the 1.0 recipe potentially come back.
Perfect.
Moving right along, we now have total THC directly written into the bill. We have rules around what is total THC. So this like THCA flower that's legally allowed. It's now very clearly defined. No, this is the conversion.
I hear Wisconsin's going crazy, dude. I hear Wisconsin. Like, that's the thing is, please cut this because I don't want any of my consumers to know that they can drive 45 minutes west and get higher doses. And bro, people are selling THCA flower, I think, out there.
Oh, dude, I hate to blow your mind. In straight up selling THCA concentrates.
Yeah. And no, somebody did say they were doing concentrates the other day, which think about, dude, if I was in college living in Dinkytown and I could walk into buy hash.
It would. Oh, yeah, man. I spent a lot of time in that shop in college. I lived at 17th.
It's a good thing that was not happening when I was in college.
Oh, yeah.
That is the one place that they need to keep this 500 feet away from.
Yeah, fair. It's from college campuses.
Bro, what are they doing with these daycares? Like, my 2.5-year-old will like occasionally like see a jar of hash sitting there, and she'll know like it's not for her.
She's gonna pick the lock of the daycare. She's gonna crawl down the street.
She doesn't want anything to do with it anyway. She like bring it to me like, dude, you left this out, dingus. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't want anything to do with it anyways.
For sure.
You know, when you explain to him what it is and like, bro, you're not gonna be into it. It's not for kids. Like, it's gonna make you like sleepy and want to go to sleep. That's the last thing she wants to do right now. Dude.
Oh yeah.
Well, you cannot have this at camp.
This is nap time stuff. Yeah, fair.
No, dude, 500 feet away from Hideaway in Dinkytown.
I think that's a good measure. Well, so we talked about the CBN, CBD, all that stuff. Previously, it had to require like a law change for them to come in and say, all right, this is allowed in this case. Now the office is just allowed to do it. So if we want to go to them and say, hey, CB whatever down the future, we want that passed, it's the office that can do it. It's not just, the legislature.
Which that has to be how it is, because the minor cannabinoid laws don't make sense. Your old buddy Steve eats crazy amounts of minors sometimes. And he can explain to you why that is. He's explained to me why it is.
Oh yeah, we've talked about CBG. So like I'm here for it. I love it.
My boy's in like the hundreds or thousands or something like that. What?
Oh yeah,
crazy.
Oh yeah. We talked on the last podcast about potential caps on licenses. We saw some potential licenses put in here. So for social equity applicants, we're going to see 25 cultivators, 12 manufacturers, 75 retailers, 50 meso businesses. Those same numbers are then mirrored for adult use, non-social equity applicants. And what's nice is they directly wrote in that if by 2026 we feel those numbers need to be higher, they don't have to change the law. The office can just do it in themselves.
Yeah.
So this is really just a roadmap for, what the next couple of years are going to look like for cannabis. Setting it up perhaps to help some businesses succeed. I've talked in the podcast before. I don't like the limited license model. But I understand that we need to be setting people up to succeed.
What states are examples of states that don't do limited license?
Oklahoma is a good example.
Okay.
So basically, if you want to open a business there, you pay the fee and then you can open your business.
What about Michigan?
So Michigan does have some caps.
There's other places where I hear they're kind of just handing them out. People just aren't renewing them in a lot of places, I think. Which is kind of scary.
Good old licensure, right? Gotta love that it's coming to our industry. Another thing that we talked a little bit about city governments earlier, a nice provision that was added in. So if you own a municipal store, we had thought that we might see some like rural counties open a municipal store, sell like 5 products, and say we're the only shop that can be in town because we can cap it at 1 per 12,000 people. What they wrote in here is that municipal store, that doesn't count towards the cap. You got to at least allow one other business not owned by the city.
Doing this has brought to my attention that liquor stores in some cities are entirely owned
by the city, and it's the only liquor store allowed in town because I don't know why.
How is that legal?
I learned that in St. Paul, they cap how close liquor stores can be to each other. So if you have a liquor store, you don't have to worry about another one opening within X number of miles of you. And that's just the law. And if someone wants to come and open a liquor store, they have to like look for parts of the city that they don't already exist. Otherwise, like, fuck you, that turf is already owned by someone else, which is insane that's how we... I agree with you. I didn't know about these laws before cannabis.
Right. If I was driving my car and I was listening to NPR and they said, oh, and by the way, the state just voted to make it so that the government is the only people that can sell weed, I'd drive off a bridge.
100%. And we see that in parts of Canada.
What? Like, oh, I'd be so frustrated by that.
So that's why we're happy to see this. We're also happy to see that the office may actually refuse to issue a license to a city if they believe that it will harm the main mission, which is laid out in subdivision 1, which is we want to issue the number of licenses to provide a sufficient supply while also having a competitive market. And that's it. So if a city is looking like they're going to come in and try to shake that up, the office can say, hey, man, not here.
They had a year to iron this stuff out. And it seems like they got some of it ironed out. How do you feel about it?
I think it's a bit cleaner. I think there's a lot of room for growth, but I'm really excited by some of the provisions. Actually, so some of the next one I'm going to talk about, I'm
you
most
feel like
stoked
it's a
about.
good direction.
I do, yeah. I think, we had a good bill that passed last year, but we all knew that was just sort of step 1. We still had to really figure out how this was going to work. I think the office is moving in the right direction, so I'm happy with it. Awesome. So we had talked on the last episode about should women qualify as social equity applicants. We actually mentioned it a little bit earlier in the show. The committee looked at it and they determined ultimately, no, that's not one of the provisions that they want to allow in.
That doesn't mean that women can't qualify. They just need to qualify some other way.
Absolutely. Women do qualify as social equity applicants if they were convicted of offensive cannabis prior to May of this year. Or excuse me, May of last year, if they are a military veteran, if they're a resident of the area that was impacted by the war on drugs, if they're an emerging farmer, meaning someone that is like the main operator of a farm business that makes at least $5,000 a year, but not more than $100,000, so like an emerging farmer of sorts. If you live in a community where most people receive food for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program or like food stamps, there's lots of different ways for people to qualify. It's just being not just a woman, but being a woman outside of these conditions doesn't automatically qualify you.
You don't get any leg up
for
being a woman, though. There's no other qualifications that open themselves up to just women.
Not as of right now.
Right.
We could see like through the Can Train, the Can Renew, like some of the grant money that goes out, there might be initiatives later on that really help to support women.
There isn't a specific targeted person by the way by the nuanced way that they were born,
for sure,
who does benefit in here.
Absolutely. It's all if you were impacted by the war on drugs, you served as a veteran, you're an emerging farmer, or you live in an area that was most impacted by the war on drugs.
It sucks that in a lot of places that are legal that a lot of the people, I think at one point in Chicago, every license was owned by a white guy, or there wasn't a person of color that had owned a license.
Absolutely.
Well, how many people in Illinois are sitting in jail? You know, people of color for petty.
100%.
And that's incredibly frustrating. You know, they even people like that, you know, don't explicitly benefit from this bill. I think that, you know, vindictively maybe they should just have a provision that, yo, can it just not be that one group of dudes, white dudes? Like, can we just somehow?
Oh yeah.
Can they get like -5 or something? You know what I mean? And I don't want to sound self-loathing, but like it's a reality.
100%. Well, and I think what we've seen is so many states have this goal of this is what we want to achieve, and then they just don't. For one reason or another, they don't meet that mark.
It sounded
We're trying to figure out how to...
I was hearing people were saying, oh, the state will get sued. Oh, the bill will run into trouble. Look what's happened in other states, stuff like that. One thing that is interesting is veterans. My strategist was saying that in Illinois, the same thing happened where, you know, when they first came out with licenses, something like, because that was in the bill, all the top applicants, you know, got put into a pool, and then it really was only the ones with veterans on their team that got picked at every single license that was handed out in Illinois in the first place was handed to a veteran or a team with a veteran on the team, which thank you so much to people like Matt, who...
oh, for sure. Shout out Matt Robidoux.
Yes, who have served our country. And I love the representation in this market, of course, or Mike at Natrium.
For sure. Stefan Egan, who we're going to show a little bit later in this episode. Yeah, another one, for sure.
So, you know, but I think those guys themselves would agree with me that more people than just veterans should have a chance at doing this. You know, while they were fighting a war somewhere else, you know, a lot of us were fighting a war against our own government.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to detract anything from the war that they were actually fighting, for sure. But dude, guns were involved in our war too.
Well, and I think like sort of like how we talked about earlier, it's not about let's make this group fight against this group and this group. It's how can we make this pie as big as possible? Of a lot of people were harmed by this. How can we get you into this? But I agree with you. I hope we see they're trying for a diverse market. I hope that we see that come to fruition.
I hope that they continue to work with us to ensure that lottery tickets are handed to that they're just sprinkled around the pie.
100%. Another one, and this is just sort of something that we love throwing out. We now have a better idea of what that application might actually look like. So they're not going to be scoring things. They're just going to be reviewing to make sure that your application includes a security and record keeping plan, an employee training plan, a business plan and financial situation description, labor and employment practices, knowledge and experience, so like a description of who works for a team, what experience they have, an environmental plan, and that is it.
And they're not scored. It's like a check. Yes, he's got
do
this.
you contain that? Yes.
And you know what? I think this helps me. Because my sections 3.1 through 6, or rather line 79.24 to 79.29 aren't as bolstered as Hohenstein's or Johnson Brothers or a lot of these big competitors of mine, and so that sounds like it helps me, dude.
And that's one of the things that I tried to talk about is like when we come into the cannabis market, it's not like we can just say this kind of person is most prepared to be successful in the market, because we both know people that come from the legacy side that are very successful in the market. And then there's other people that come from like medicine or like other industries that also are successful in cannabis.
And you know what? Unfortunately for me, those people can really benefit the consumer as well in the ways that they do.
And I think we're going to see hopefully a diverse market where you check the boxes you're just as likely to get a license as someone who maybe has hundreds of thousands of dollars invested into their application and like, nah, it's can you set up a business? Then you should be able to do it. Let's see. True party of interest did make its way in. Essentially what this means, in just like a very summarized version, is it's not just going to be who are the directors on the board, but really who's actually controlling the business from like the financial perspective. So we're not going to see, hopefully, a bunch of like umbrella businesses that have a bunch of subsidiaries underneath them. This should limit it so that we're seeing really those license caps applied to individual people, saying you can only have so many licenses, actually have meaning and weight. More to come.
You think that it'll work?
More to come.
Sure.
I do think it's a step in the right direction. I think we're going to do a lottery system. We're going to be able to throw people's names into the pot and just sort of see what comes out. I think having things like this are the guardrails that help to protect that.
It's almost like saying this is something we wish would happen.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you.
You know what, dude? I don't have a better answer.
Yeah.
I don't think. You know who might? Kayla Fearing. Shout out to her and all of the work that she did with this bill.
Yeah.
That is so dope. Congratulations. So cool.
Yeah.
I don't.
Her stuff made it into the bill. Like
Right,
we're going to see that go to the House and Senate in the next couple of days here. Finally get that final passage, because it has to happen by, if you're listening to this on Monday, by technically today. So by today, we're going to see this passed.
Yeah, I
so
know I would be.
We're recording this Friday. Honestly, this might happen over the weekend. The conference committee report has now been signed. That's why it was posted online, available to all of us. So who knows? Maybe later Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. One of those days, we're going to see this. But yeah.
I was talking to somebody who is close with state rep. Just a friend of theirs.
For sure.
And they were like, yeah, dude, they haven't seen their kid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're there till 1 a.m. Like, these guys are exhausted. Like, I don't know why it works like this, but I got a glimpse last year when I really had time to go to the Capitol and see how convoluted this whole process is.
So that was a year ago today. The bill passed May 20th, May 19th. I'm going to get the date wrong and people are going to at me, but it's one of those two dates.
I remember it being like the last day in April or May that we were all at the Capitol cheering for something.
Yeah. So because it passed the House twice and the Senate twice. They passed the Senate for the final time at like 1:30 in the morning on like a Saturday morning, because I remember going to the Capitol at like 6 p.m. on Friday. I had pizza with Josh from Legacy and Veronica from Misoda Essence.
If I need to know what happens in these sessions, I call Josh.
Yeah.
Shout out Veronica, though. What up, dude?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, and just thinking back to a year ago when we were like, will it pass, won't it pass? And now we're like, should we allow droppers as a serving size instead of a demarcation? And like, we're getting so much into the how should we legalize? And I'm here for it. I love it. I love that we're not talking about should we arrest people or should we not, but it's how should we best get products to consumers?
Which seems silly at the same time as us saying only 57,000 little misdemeanors.
Oh, yeah. So the next one that we're talking about, and shout out Dr. Dabbs, Dr. Clement Dabney, he makes a bunch of seasonings, spices that used to be in a bulk bag with a scoop, and then unfortunately the Department of Health said, hey, it needs to be marked or scored on the product. Yeah, so now
he invested in a whole machine.
So now if you buy them, they're in the little bags, right? Well, yeah, so now it's written in, as long as you have some sort of calibrated dropper, measuring spoon, or a similar device, and it's meant to be combined with other things prior to consumption, you're good to go.
If he had anything to do with that. Dude,
I'm calling it the Dr. Dabbs provision, even if he had nothing to do with it, because that really affects like that product and a couple others, yes, but mostly I'm excited to get my Dr. Dabbs seasoning bags with a scoop.
That just makes more sense for what you're doing.
So much more sense, and so much better for the environment. Like, we want to cut out all this unnecessary plastic. Let's do that.
Oh my God, when we first started shopping for this shit, dude, it was so bad. legally.
Yeah.
So
100%.
much plastic and bags and this, and you can't open this thing until you get out of here, or there's just so many layers.
For sure. I remember buying like a disposable vape pen, and it comes inside of a plastic container, and then that has to be inside of like a child-proof thing. And then you go to the store, and they're putting everything inside of a bag that then they're going to seal and staple with the receipt. And you're like, wow, my one vape pen is inside of 4 bags right now. And
what'd you do with that pen when you were done with it?
Almost certainly I threw it right out the car. No, of course not. No.
Right into a little bird's nest, dude.
No, it is,
right
like
onto a turtle.
We as an industry need to evolve. And that's why, like, I'm so excited to walk into a store and buy like a baller jar of some rosin and not have to worry about
I'm excited
how
for
much
a
plastic
store
went into
or a
it.
manufacturer to figure out pen technology for me. I do not want, the batteries are miserable, bro. I'm talking to Vapo 2. Honest to God, bro. It's really a lot of people, it's standard in disposable rosin vapes.
Absolutely.
The reason we're doing disposable vapes is because I need to dial the temperature in for my customer so they don't fuck the terps up that we worked really hard to put in there, because if they do that after 4 hits, they're going to come back to me and say, why did this half gram cost me $45 and taste like shit already? That's why I got to give you disposables right now. That's what we're up against. So I need a manufacturer who can dial in my customer and make sure that they don't burn my terps or that they're not able to with the hardware that we give them that isn't permanently attached to a battery. Because when I talk to the people at Vapo 2 for research and development purposes,
absolutely,
I say, hey dude, what do I do with this after I'm done? And they say, well, we can't tell you because it's not even legal to manufacture the things that you're probably putting in there up in your state right now. And I say, I'm not, and if I am, it's for research and development. Nothing is for sale.
Well, we encourage people to buy those O2 pens when they're making concentrates at home and wanting to like fill their own pens, because that's like some of the best ones.
So dude was like, we just tell our people to incinerate them. They're gonna be the incinerator. What? That's a lithium battery, bro. I worked with big lithium batteries in my previous line of work, and we didn't tell people to do that when they were done with them. We told people to recycle them, dog, because they're pretty much fully recyclable.
Yeah, we as an industry need to strive.
Somebody figure that out. Somebody figure out recycling disposable pens and also making it so that I can have a rechargeable battery that can put chronic rosin pods on, because 710, as badly as I want to distribute you in this state, your rosin pod technology, the last time I hit it, which mind you was like 2 years ago, kind of sucked.
Yeah. Oh, so let's talk about that, because I similarly, I went and visited my friend in Colorado. He was working during the day, and it's like, all right, this is a dispensary I got to drive to get those 710 pods. I'm stoked about it.
Right, and they had some flavors that you were pumped.
Absolutely. Popped it in, took the first hit. I was like, all right, that's okay. Like maybe it's sort of warming up a little bit. Took another one.
Where it was like,
and then it just like never really got good. Whereas same trip, bought a Laser Cat pen, blew my mind.
There are, I think 710 is a little bigger than Laser Cat, and they're both my favorite hash company. It's just the most consistent hash I've ever been able to find. You know what I mean? I haven't found a black market producer that's kept up that quality for 6 years running, dude. I bought my first jar of 710 18, 19 probably. So,
and seeing them expand to other states,
every other state. So I'd love to have them here, but my experience with the pen is, maybe I've had some good ones. It's like you get a third of the way through and it starts to taste burnt, and that's when I'm pissed. Maybe I fucked it up, but you let me do it. Give me technology that I can't fuck up.
Well, especially when it's something so proprietary.
Like all of that was a lot of. I feel very strongly about these little pens, dude.
No, I think this is good stuff to talk about, because especially when people are considering like, what do I want to buy to put my own concentrates in? Like, I spent so long growing the plant and making the oils and doing this, to put it inside of a cart when it's like, all right, yep, that's burnt.
Like, Vapo 2s are great, but dude, there's a handful of really solid vape technology on the market. You got questions, hit me up.
There we go. All right. Well, so let's keep moving through. Another thing that we got coming up here. We talked in the past about like what does medical cannabis look like here in Minnesota. We're not going to have dedicated medical cannabis dispensaries selling only medical cannabis. We're not going to have cultivators growing only medical cannabis. But we are going to see is this endorsement allowed. So if you want to cultivate cannabis, process cannabis, or sell cannabis that's intended for medical patients, you just got to get an endorsement. You can grow other cannabis. You can process other cannabis. You can sell other cannabis. It's just, you need this sign off from the office saying, yep, you've got someone who knows what medical cannabis is. You're good to sell that.
And the office is the one that's determining.
Yep, exactly. And that's still yet to be determined. But at least we're going to see. I mean, I think today we've got 16 shops that are allowed to sell medical cannabis in Minnesota. This is going to blow open the doors.
We got to get the Wallachs some lab coats, dude.
Ooh, there we go. All right. Yeah. I dig it.
I don't know how to get endorsed, but it doesn't sound like a bad way to,
If you want to sponsor a podcast, let us know. All right. Another one. We talked about what sort of children protections, if you will, are being built into the bill. This is one. No products are going to be able to use images of toys, robots, fruits, or vegetables unless it accurately describes the ingredients or flavors in the product.
Okay,
You're not going to.
We got to run that back.
All right. Yeah. So if you want to put like a toy, so we've got rosin jar, right? Let's say you want a little robot on the side of it.
Okay, that's so funny.
Not allowed.
Toys or robots, just robots.
Just robots.
I could put a genie on there. I could
Yep,
put
unicorn.
a dragon on there.
Yep.
I could put a unicorn on
For
there.
sure.
Not a robot?
Not a robot.
That's so funny to me.
Not a robot. So if you have like product that maybe is like.
What strains are affected by the robot ban?
I'm struggling to think of one off the top of my head.
Kush.
There we go.
Right,
Yeah,
dude,
for sure. Yeah, that's
so funny to me. Robot.
Is there like
like the whole like suckers and ice cream thing?
Oh, and so this is just like version 2 of what are the other things they're concerned about? Fruit and vegetables. Have you ever gotten Granny's gummies before?
Yeah, for sure. Dude.
So they have a not only an apple on the front, but also a character. Thankfully, it's just a character that's properly advertised for children. A previous version said any characters.
Right.
Now it's just if it's
good.
previous. Yeah, Granny's is good because the fruit accurately describes the flavor inside. But if they're selling things that doesn't taste like apple or doesn't have apple in it, but it has an apple on front, that wouldn't be allowed. So maybe it's like a apple fritter.
You know who that protects? Is me, who was just talking about that jar of rosin tastes like the fig-looking thing on the outside that it looks like. Because if I buy something wanting apple, it has apple on it, and I get it doesn't taste like apple, I'm going to be pissed off. So it protects me.
And it wouldn't be allowed. You're not allowed to have characters that are proper or phrases that are properly used to advertise towards children. So Barney the dinosaur dabs, unfortunately, not going to be allowed here in Minnesota.
You couldn't do like they're great,
You can say they're great. You just can't say they're. You can't do that one. Yeah. So they can be great. They could be magically yummy, but they can't be delicious. Yeah, things like that. And they can't use any brand names or close imitations of brand names that sell candies, cereals, sweets, chips, or other foods that typically marketed toward children.
Obviously, dude. This is like copyright law, basically.
We're not going to see any Chips Ahoy edibles unless Chips Ahoy actually makes them. And even that
soda did.
Yeah, that's shout out Jones
Soda.
Soda.
I was thinking about that before they did it, so I'm pissed that they beat me to that.
And I've heard they're pretty good.
Really? I think Hemp House sells them.
Yeah. Let's see. So we got a license pre-approval process written into the bill. So if you're a social equity applicant, you don't necessarily have to wait for that full first round of licensure. You can get what's called a pre-approval. So this is going to be almost certainly another lottery system.
Jeez, look at 134.19.
Yeah. So we're going to see 20 cannabis wholesalers just in that first round of pre-approvals.
Oh boy.
Our market is coming online. So
here we go.
We're going to see those applications no later than July 24th of this year.
Oh God.
That application is going to close no earlier than August 12th of this year. However, the thing is,
that's 2.5.
Yeah, that's like soon here.
Yeah.
We're
2 months from Memorial Day.
Yeah, 100%. So we're going to see that really rolling out shortly here.
Holy shit. And we were saying, dude, everybody was saying for so long, like, this is taking forever. And now we're like,
dude, here it comes.
Not ready.
Yeah. 100%.
Wow, let's go.
Yeah, so technically these people won't be able to begin their specific business itself. They'll be able to start acquiring properties, getting city licensure, really doing everything
Right.
that's needed. But in essence, these are the people that are going to be part of that first round of opening
And
business.
I wonder when they're going to start approving applications.
So it has to happen within like 30 days of that window closing. So we're going to see applications approved
At the end
by
of
the
August.
fall. Yeah.
And that means that come the fall of this year, we're going to be able to lock into dispensaries.
So unfortunately not. Starting fall of this year, we're going to start seeing dispensaries probably being built, storefronts being put up in place, but they won't be able to open until the second round of licenses goes out. However, what is going to be allowed is they're allowing...
So the head start is really just development.
Exactly. It's you can go and find investors and know that you have a license secured, and you can go to people and say, I want to start a business and I have a license and you should fund me for it.
Holy shit, dude, that makes me feel like they're like letting the social equity applicants run for like a couple blocks and then look behind and then boom, there's the starting gun.
Yep.
It's like, you better keep running, buddy.
Exactly.
Run fast.
And they're even going to allow, this was one thing that was sort of put in at the last moment by the Senate, or at least in the final hours, long talked about, but is early cultivation. So 100 micro businesses, 25 meso businesses, and 13 cultivators are going to be able to start growing product this fall here in Minnesota. Now, stores likely won't open this fall. We'll probably see that beginning part of next year.
13
But we'll at least have...
cultivators, bro.
Yeah. 13 cultivators that can grow thousands of square feet of cannabis. We're going to have...
Matter.
No, I agree with you. We're going to have...
Nobody will be able to buy weed.
I agree with you.
13
But along with that, we're also
cultivators.
going to see 25 meso
Bro,
businesses.
10 of these three of these initial grows are going to go south.
100%.
3 of them are going to be mids. You know what I mean? Like that leaves 7 cultivators to supply the state of Minnesota for how long?
So there are other people that can supply Minnesota, and it's the tribes. Starting perhaps under compacts, we're going to see places like Red Lake, White Earth, Metawakan, like all of these places that had started growing cannabis. What do you think is going to happen?
There's going to be tons of black market weed sold legally.
I would agree with that.
There's going to be a ton of that. It happens, I think, in a lot of places. It happens especially during what I believe is early stages of licensure.
For sure. Yeah. It's definitely going to be interesting watching this all roll out, but at least we have our final version. It's going to be going to the House and Senate, as we mentioned earlier.
People will at least be able to buy illegal weed legally.
There we go. Exactly. I'll at least be able to buy my illegal cannabis from a
step,
store.
dude. It's a good first step. Listen, people are going to smoke that weed anyways, and most of it's probably pretty good weed. You know what I mean? These people have been growing this weed for a lot longer than a handful of those 13 cultivators will have been growing weed for. And so it's probably good weed, and I'm smoking it.
Yeah. Me too.